But
Yeah.
another thing that we got to get into on this show, Lepore, this past week, the NHL Board of Governors ratified the new draft lottery system.
Yes. Yes.
So I know you have some strong opinions on this. So for those who aren't aware of the changes, so recently the NHL has been doing a lottery for the top 3 picks in the draft. So now it's going down from the top 3 picks to the top 2 picks.
Mm-hmm.
So they're only going to do a lottery for the top 2 picks. Just some other things to bring up. Teams will only be allowed to jump 10 spots with a lottery win. So if you have like the 13th best odds to win the lottery and you happen to win it, you obviously can't move up to the number 1 pick under this system. You'd be moving up to the 3rd pick. And then the other point, I believe that's, the other point here, Lepore, is that teams will only be limited to 2 lottery wins in a 5-year period. So you're not going to be like the Edmonton Oilers, like winning 17 lotteries in a row.
But I found that one interesting, and I'd like to see the further details of that, because the way it's worded is that you can't win the lottery more than twice in that span, the 5-year span. But that doesn't mean you can't pick first more than twice. Because, for example, if you're dead last and then it's won by teams who are above 10, and then say you win it twice, and there's a situation where you're dead last, and that, you see what I'm saying? Like, you can get it 5 times in a row, in theory, if it goes your way. Saying. So I'm wondering if that's actually the case, or by winning they also mean you can't get one. But from the wording, it's like, no, you can get one more than once. You just can't win the lottery more than once. So I guess we'll see. They'll explain it as we get closer to the actual lottery. But yeah, my take on this, Bruno, is that it's almost like we're not even going to talk about sports here. We're talking about just like life and human nature, in the way that people are never happy. People are never happy, and people are always looking to the other side. Because if you remember years back when you had the Oilers picking first every year, there was a serious problem with that format. Because with that format, you could only move up 5 spots, and only one team won the lottery. So if you were dead last, the worst you were going to pick was second. And if you added the chance you had yourself of winning the lottery, as well as the chance of a team outside the top 5 winning the lottery, I think the Oilers had like a 60-70% chance to pick first every year. Now, that system was wrong. And with that, the whole problem was tanking. It really and truly encouraged tanking. And nobody wants that, really. At the end of the day, nobody wants to encourage tanking. So I understood the change. So then you move to the current format we had, or the format we had, where they were going to raffle off 3 spots. So 3 spots, every team that's not in the playoffs, based on percentage, you were given odds, and off we go. Okay. So now you have this format where they're going to raffle off 2, because they say, you know what? We don't think it's fair for teams to have a strong chance to win the lottery if you're not in the basement. You know, the basement teams are the teams that should have the best chance of getting a franchise-changing player. So to me now, you're contradicting yourself, because before you didn't want to encourage tanking, but now you're saying, well, the teams in the basement are the ones that should get the franchise-changing player. And this all happened because once now, you had the New York Rangers, who I think they were 12th or 13th worst in the league, win the lottery and move up to number 1. Nothing's changed. And even how the Rangers won, it was kind of a one-off in the way of the format last year, based on how they structured the playoffs, and they had to put the teams who lost in the
teams
playoffs.
That lost in the qualifying round entered the lottery. So it's like,
right.
Oh my God, these teams that technically made the playoffs are out in the lottery.
And again, like, to me, my problem with that whole thing was that they let too many teams in. So like I think that was the problem they made, in the way that, okay, like, so the Leafs, they lost, and the Leafs were in the lottery. It's like, well, the Leafs, I'm going to be neutral here, the Leafs shouldn't have been in the lottery. But then I'll take my other take too and say, well, the Leafs shouldn't have had to play a play-in. Like, they were in a playoff spot, not comfortably, but it looked like they were going to get in the playoffs. So now you're making them, so you can't have it both ways. The NHL had to do something. But now you have this, and you're encouraging tanking again, because you're giving these teams at the very bottom a better chance to pick high. And like, I think the problem people had was not necessarily tanking itself. Like, I shouldn't say that. Everyone's got a problem with tanking, but I think the major problem people had was teams doing it multiple times and picking high multiple times. So if it was up to me, I would have kept the same format that we had with the 3 teams winning the lottery, but say put in some stipulations where, and it kind of works in the way that the top 2 or 3 players are typically like the big 3. There's usually a big 3 in the way that like you have like 1 or 2 North American skaters and a defenseman, or 1 like, Swedish defenseman or something like that. So how I would have done it was something along the lines of, if you win the lottery and pick in the top 3, or if you pick in the top 3, you can't pick in the top 3 the next year. The highest you can pick is 4th. And at 4, 5, 6, like you still get, that's still a high pick. So you just can't pick in the top 3 2 years in a row, and then put in something that if you pick it 1, you can't pick in the top 3 for maybe 2 years or something, or you can't pick it 1 for a certain amount of years. Like, do something like that. I don't think anyone would have had a problem with that, because people were getting pissed off, not because Edmonton was tanking and getting first overall those years. They're pissed off because it kept happening. It's like, if you're bad, you're bad. Or if you're trying to be bad, okay, we'll let you do it once or twice to try to rebuild your team. But no, when it's getting ridiculous and teams are at the bottom 4 or 5 years in a row and they're always picking high, if not at number 1, that's where people get frustrated. And with this current format, I think you're asking for that again. Whereas,
like
now
the NHL is yo-yoing back and forth between, how they want it to be done.
We would not be here had Detroit or Ottawa won the lottery last year.
Yeah. And I was just going to say that about Detroit. I think that was a major issue that
because they picked
had
4th
as well. Or they're like, Detroit was horrendous last season, like historically bad. Obviously had the best chance at landing one of the top 2 picks, and they ended up picking 4th.
Yeah, they got
so
leaped,
teams are like, what the fuck?
Like, so the combination of that and the Rangers getting 1 was a bad mix. Yeah,
it was like a perfect storm of the worst team in the NHL drops down to 4th, and then a team that had no business picking in the top 3 lands the number 1 pick and picks Alexis Lafreniere.
Yeah.
But no, Lepore, I agree with you for the most part, like, because I hated it when the Oilers were picking first overall year after year. It's like, okay, they get Taylor Hall, and then they picked first again with Nail Yakupov, who ended up being a bust. And then, oh my God, now they have Connor McDavid. And that was a year that I believe the Buffalo Sabres had the worst record in the NHL. And I remember
Edmonton actually won it. They were like 5th or something, and they actually won it. It wasn't a case of they just didn't get leaped. They won it. Yeah,
exactly. And I remember Sabres Twitter at that time. Like, they were so fired up because they're like, yes, we guarantee at least Jack Eichel.
Yeah.
Now that we're dead last, right? And then, of course, Edmonton wins the lottery again. And then the NHL is like, oh my God, like, we can't let this keep happening. Like, we got to switch this system around. And now it's like you said, they're essentially just going back to that because of one season. And, like you said, Lepore, it was a one-off season. You have COVID, you have the return to play plan where the NHL has 24 teams return for the playoffs. So then the teams that lose in the qualifying round go into the lottery. So, I mean, I know people were pissed off that the Rangers won the lottery, but can you imagine like Pittsburgh?
Dude, Toronto.
Or the Leafs, like,
dude, I'm sure you saw the camera. The Leafs ball hit the tube. Like, can you imagine the shitstorm had Toronto won the lottery?
Oh,
and there was that part of me that would have been like, good, you created this stupid format. Like, let Pittsburgh or Toronto get it, to be a slap in the face of how stupid you guys all are. Like,
oh my God, like, my God. Twitter would have absolutely blown
meltdown.
And even if Edmonton had won the lottery last year too, like there was, those 3 teams were in play. And if any of those teams had won, like, it would have just been Armageddon.
Yeah.
For the NHL on Twitter.
It's funny because I remember even seeing, and like, this would have been absolutely hilarious. How they do it with the percentages. If I remember correctly, each team owns combinations. And I think the combinations are all 4 numbers. And the Matthews year, after 3 numbers, when they were drawing the 4th number, Edmonton had the best chance to win.
Unbelievable.
And I think Toronto only had like a 10-15% chance to win. And then the fourth ball gave them the right combination. But they would have had Edmonton was like, I think they had like a 50-60% chance going into the last ball to get first overall in Austin Matthews. So it's just
crazy.
Like they can't seem to get it right. But again, I think the problem is not about a team picking first or a team tanking. It's about multiple years in a row. And that's what has to be stopped. And even this is where I get so confused by people's decisions sometimes. So they did the thing now, like, oh, okay, you can only move up 10. You can only move up 10. So you have to be in the bottom third of the league. Well, and again, they did it because I think the Rangers had like the 12th or 13th worst record. But now, okay, so it's towards the end of the season and your team is dangling at like 10, 11, 12 worst. You're not tanking.
Yeah, it's like, of course you're going to.
Of course you are.
At that point.
Of course you're going to tank at that point to try to get in that lottery chance. What do you have to gain, right? So I just think they can't seem to get it right. I think they listen to the cries. Like they listen to the cries, and to me that's a big fail. And I think something as simple as keeping it the way it was, but you can't pick in the top 3 X amount of years in a row, and you can't pick one X amount of years in a row, or if you pick it one, the best you can pick it is 4th or something the 2 years after that. Everyone would have been okay with that, because even 2 on the other side, who would really argue with that? If you say, okay, you pick it 1, so next year if you're dead last you pick 4, well, it's still 4.
Yeah, that's still a top 5 pick. You're still getting a really good player
pick. Yeah,
like maybe you're not getting like a generational talent, but you're going to get a pretty damn impactful player in that spot.
Yeah, so
you do your homework.
Yeah, so again, like the whole thing of it's still good to be bad on purpose. As much as people don't want to hear that a lot, just the higher you pick, the better. But I just think it was a fail, and I can't wait till a few years from now you're going to have teams tanking multiple years in a row again. Same thing over and over, and then they're going to be like, oh, well, we're encouraging tanking. We need to change this again. And I get, what were we saying about the NHL being a joke?
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, just with the refereeing situation. It's the exact same thing when it comes down to the draft lottery, Lepore.
People forget, too, the McDavid year, Boston missed the playoffs. They had like a one-off year where they missed out. They came like 9th in the conference or 10th in the conference. Can you imagine?
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have a podcast because we'd be just hiding under sheets somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
The Boston Bruins with Connor McDavid. God,
we'd be in hiding for a long time if the Bruins had Connor McDavid.
Gross.
All right, Lepore. Well, we can shake our heads and laugh at the NHL all we want, but yeah, it's like you said. I mean, this stuff is probably going to just continue to happen because all it takes is one GM to come crying to Gary Bettman and Bill Daly and say, we need to change this. We're not happy with how this has gone down. So it's never ending with this league.